Tyreek Hill's going to Miami. Kyrie Irving's about to be able to play home games. This is 3rd and 5. Nice moves, Thwaites. Welcome into 3rd and 5, another episode of 3rd and 5. Simon Hampton here, Dave Rice and James Thwaites joining me on the Zoom from various spots around Brooklyn. Gents, it's going to be a little bit of a quicker episode tonight. We're going to do away with the topics and just have a general chit-chat because we've all got pretty busy lives outside of the podcast that are chewing up time. So how are we, guys?
Doing well. I went to MSG last night, saw Trae Young throw up over 40 points against the Knicks.
Was he booed?
I actually kind of love it. He was booed a lot. There were a couple of fuck Trae Young chants that it got real quiet real fast, and then a lot of people left. And I was at the game last night, and just like all these stats started coming through on my phone. So Trae Young, 20 plus points in first half for the 12th time this season. So he's tied with Joel Embiid and Devin Booker. I think the one that blew my mind, though, apart from his absolute amazing record at MSG and him being the ultimate villain there, was Trae Young is the 6th player in NBA history with 25 40-point games before turning 24. I had no idea he was 23. I didn't think he was that young. That is insane.
Really?
And the only other people to do that in NBA history, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Wilt Chamberlain, Rick Barry, and Bob McAdoo. So pretty insane. But I mean, and that was good. We got Kyrie coming back.
Yeah, I'm proud for Kyrie.
Got Kyrie coming. Ashley Barty is retiring from tennis at 25. I'm surprised Dave was probably going to bring that up. Sorry, Dave.
Isn't she good at other sports like cricket and soccer? Maybe so. Like this maybe opens the door for her to do something else. Surely she's not just stopping being an athlete altogether at 25.
No, I'd imagine she's not. Yeah, she just had enough tennis. Tennis is like a sort of very like such an individual sport, so isolating.
Yeah,
I think Djokovic or one of those top guys have said that before. Like, there's probably no sport like it where because remember, like you get like penalized if they try and coach you during a game, which I think is a joke. I think you should be allowed to. Like, I reckon a coach should be able to sit down there and in between sets, if maybe not in between games, but in between sets, they should be able to change the tactics like they do it in every other sport.
That's
like,
interesting. Yeah. Like, and you always see them just they must get so frustrated because they like it's all internal and they start yelling at themselves a lot of the time.
Yeah, and because obviously the idea is like, and it's traditionally always just been that you have to kind of work it out mentally yourself, and as you're tiring. But I just like, why does every other sport get that advantage? And the thing is, you'd be given the advantage to both. So it's not like it's only one player gets it. So it's a weird sort of. I reckon similar to golf. It's just some of these things they just seem to never want to change because it's it's the sort of the history of the game. But,
Speaking of that, I had a great idea for tennis that I think would really like propel it on the world stage. And it's basically having the tennis ball explode into confetti at some random point in the game for double points. Basically, it just counts down, and you just got to hit it back and forth, and whoever side of the net it explodes on, they get double points. So while we bring that rule in, while we bring this coaching one, I think will be
kind of like a pinata.
Mm-hmm.
Pinata of tennis. I like it.
Nadal would definitely be the most likely to just smash it. Like,
I think Nadal's shots would count as 2 shots towards the knocking out of the confetti. Kyrie's back on Sunday. We're all trying to head along to that.
Some of us got tickets earlier than others, and I think some of us are regretting not jumping on that.
Tickets have doubled in price in about 15 minutes since that news came out. But yeah, I mean, they've got what, 10 games left, I think. So now I think there's a good chance they should probably. Well, I think they should be able to win every game. I don't know if they will win every game, but like they'll probably be favourites for every game now.
I think it's going to be interesting.
Maybe one game against the Bucks, but
yeah, it's kind of hard as well because like injuries again are kind of rearing their head for the Nets. Tonight, like while we're talking right now, they're up against the Grizzlies. Steven Adams is was having his way for the first 5 minutes with that team. But I would say Dragic isn't playing. Seth Curry's been out for a couple of games now, which isn't good after going down the other day. What's his name? Center. Aldridge is
down.
Is still out. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's good that Curry's back and can play because the more minutes they get together, the better. But it's gonna be interesting come playoffs.
When's James Johnson going to get one of these niggly injuries that keep him out for a couple of games?
James Johnson.
He's the one guy. He's the one. They were talking before the game. They're like, this is like the Nets, like 40 seconds different starting lineup, or like different, whatever different team they've put out. And I'm pretty sure James Johnson is involved in just about every one of them. He's the one constant throughout this season.
It's ridiculous. I think out of all of us, we can all collectively agree on one thing, and that is our collective hatred for James Johnson every time he steps on the floor.
It's so bad. I just saw him put up an air ball to try and close out the first quarter with a 3-pointer. It's pretty bad.
Have you guys caught much of the March Madness?
I've been slowly watching my bracket just absolutely implode on itself. But I think my bracket is imploding less than your bracket. And just for others,
to win.
Yeah, just for others, what we do each year to decide our fantasy football draft, we do March Madness brackets, and the winner gets to be the top, and vice versa. So it's pretty fun.
Which round? This is regular stuff. I don't really watch much of it until it gets to the Final Four. Which how many games are they now? Are they at Sweet 16 yet?
The best team to watch. The best team. I think it starts tomorrow. The Sweet 16 is Thursday, Friday, which is round of 16. And the team to watch is it St. Peter's? It's the team in New Jersey that has beaten beat the second seed, and they've beat two highly rated sides already. I think they got Purdue, who are third seed. So if they can do another one like that, that's the kind of the fairy tale. A team that no one would have even probably considered to be even in the 64, let alone 16.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like it's kind of like having like the FA Cup.
It is kind of an FA Cup
condensed into like 3 weeks, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess first thing to talk about tonight is probably the NFL. We had a huge trade today. Came out today that Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs were not progressing on a new contract, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it sounded like he was a certainty to be traded. Then immediately after that, it was the Jets or the Dolphins, and then now the Dolphins have been confirmed as the team that's traded for Tyreek Hill. So that's changes the game for the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Let's talk about the Dolphins first. Like, what do you think this move for Tyreek Hill, pairing up with Tua, who they've committed to as their quarterback, what does this mean for the Dolphins?
I think it's only exciting things for the Dolphins. It's look. Do I think they've overpaid for Tyreek Hill? Probably. Like, he is 29 or something like that.
What's the contract? 120 million over 4 years. So
DaVante Adams was the highest paid wide receiver for less than a week. So I think if you're a wide receiver at the moment that's due a contract extension, you are rubbing your hands. You are a very happy person. I think it's only a good thing though for that team. Like, last season when Tua did throw the ball downfield, like, it was exciting, and he can throw it down. Just needs to be a bit more consistent this year. And when you've got Waddle, you got Hill, and then you've got Gesicki at tight end, who lines up a lot at wide receiver, like, that's pretty exciting. You're just going to want to make sure that your O-line like stays pretty strong, so you've got time to throw the ball, and hopefully those. What are we now? Year 3 for Tua? Those year 3 nerves kind of like calm down a bit. I think it's year 3. Who knows with COVID? What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, well, I think I like what the Dolphins have done, where they're really sort of going all in on giving Tua everything he needs to succeed. Because I have a feeling they've been also doing some sort of trades with the O-line. I'm sure they'll probably shore it up a little bit in the draft as well, which is traditionally a position where players can make an impact on day one compared to some other positions. And so, yeah, I think, Tua's your guy. He quite easily by the end of the year might not be your guy and you get rid of him. But you give him this year. This is the real test. I think his first 2 years. First year it was always he wasn't starting. I think it was Fitzy was ahead of him, and it was kind of he eventually got eased in. Last year he had injury problems. So what you want to see is just a healthy Tua, which is questionable whether he can ever be like that because he isn't the biggest guy and he's always had injury concerns. But you want to see him have a good healthy year, and with those weapons, you'd like to think that they could really be a contender. But yeah, it remains to be seen.
Do you think they get out of
the
do you
AFC
think they
East?
top that? Yeah, because it's a brutal AFC East.
So
and
who's the
East-
fourth team? It's obviously the Patriots and Bills who are the two faves. But who's the
Jets.
fourth team?
The Jets.
The Jets.
New York Jets.
Well, I think I know who's coming fourth. But
I mean,
yeah.
they would have to be favourite for second now.
I mean, I think the Patriots have just proved it last year with a rookie quarterback that they are just, you can never count them out. And they were like, while they're probably not going to be again in the conversation, certainly not preseason of being like a Super Bowl contender. With Belichick, with Mac Jones having that year under his belt, you certainly can't write them off.
Were you surprised to hear the Jets were in the conversation for him?
No. I'm glad the Jets were in the conversation. I'm glad that the Jets did not commit what they needed to get him. Their offer was slightly lower. They weren't giving up
as many picks, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't giving up their top 10 pick. I think the Jets have other problems that they need to solve, which I think they need to shore up their O-line a lot. Zach Wilson, like the game Dave and I went to when they played Tampa Bay, when he's got a bit more time to throw, he was great to watch. Like he really gave that Buccaneers defense a run for their money last season. They've got Michael Carter at running back. They've got some great wide receivers as well. They'll be all right. They've got other priorities now. So,
what about the Chiefs? They signed Juju Smith-Schuster. He's obviously not the talent that Tyreek Hill is.
Quite a different player, eh? Like he's that sort of tall wide receiver. Certainly not as explosive as
the explosive speed of Hill. They've got to be active on the market now to bring someone in, surely.
Yeah, definitely. But also, like with the Chiefs, like in bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a slot receiver. Like that's his role. Like they play completely different kind of wide receiver
definitely.
roles a lot of the time. I think they definitely will bring someone in. I think people were joking that they were going to bring in Valdez Scantling to replace Hill. I don't know if that's quite right, but again, like there's still a lot of like wide receivers out on the market. Like Julio Jones is sitting out there as a free agent. Jarvis Landry is sitting out there as a free agent. There's a lot of things. So I think if you're a wide receiver, you're in high demand, which is a good thing. But also like there'll be a lot more movement around wide receivers over the coming weeks for sure.
Yeah, could you see someone like, with Seattle sort of looking at a rebuild, they could go after someone like Metcalf?
Metcalf's due, or he's eligible for an extension at the moment. I don't know. Like, honestly, I have never seen anything like this in the time that I've been following the NFL, where it is just so many crazy trades all the time and all these things going against, like, all like what I think is going to happen. So I'm not even going to try estimate that. I would like to think they don't get rid of Metcalf though.
What happened with we actually talked about this last week with the Christian Kirk that just blew everyone's mind, that someone that's probably hasn't even done 1,000-yard season, has shown glimpses but hasn't been the consistency that you have a lot of the top tier players have. Getting 84 million, and we were just like, wow, like what does this do to the rest of the market? And yeah, like we kind of we thought about or considered that, DaVante Adams, Tyreek Hill, have just blown that number out the water, and Metcalf's another one that will probably be another $100 million contract or whatever it will be. Like,
imagine if your boy Deebo Samuels, like he must just be absolutely stoked at the way the market is, because like those players are getting that much money, like Deebo's getting a lot.
Yeah, well, and he's a sort of it would actually be great for him if his contract was up, because he had such a good year. It's going to probably be hard for him to back that up. Like, he's I wouldn't necessarily as the most improved, but he'd be up there as the most improved player just over the last sort of 12, maybe 1-2 seasons. Like, I don't know if I was thinking of him as I do now 2 years ago. So yeah, he's certainly someone that would be keen to get that contract extended or done ASAP while he's kind of, basically thrive off that sort of form that he brought to the postseason.
It's kind of interesting as well. I was reading an article today that apparently Bobby Wagner might be on the move. Well, he's obviously no longer at the Seahawks. So there was chat that he might join the 49ers, which would be crazy if he stayed in division. Von Miller's obviously signed this monster contract with the Bills. I think they've overpaid there, like considering how old Von Miller is. And also the Rams. The Rams are making some moves as well. So
it's crazy. What we're going to see shake out is, like, there's been so many players. I think pretty much all the big deals we're talking about are overpaying the guys, which just it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out in the season to come. Where can they kind of bring a team together that's truly competitive? Packers are a great example where most people are probably writing them off because, well, one, they've lost DaVante Adams and they couldn't win with him, and the amount they're paying Rodgers, like, they're going to struggle to really pull a team together unless they can pick up all these draft picks that become like studs like a Micah Parsons, which that's a complete lottery and unlikely to have multiple in 1 year.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? That Kirk deal just sort of reset the wide receiver salary market, and now we're getting all these huge deals. And so I wonder if there'll be, I don't know, changes to the salary cap, down the line over the next few years. But we talk about DaVante Adams. He's obviously gone to the Raiders now. That West division just gets tougher and tougher. Where do you see the Raiders shaking out after a move like that?
It's always hard. I think people write off Derek Carr a lot. Derek Carr's he's not an elite quarterback, but like he was up there with passing yards last season. I think he was at least top 5. Adding DaVante Adams in there as well with Darren Waller, and then a couple of others that they've got.
Renfro.
Like Renfro's great in the slot as well. Like, this is only going to do good. Their defense is great. They've locked up their key defensive players as well. Like, that division looks awful. Like, it truly looks awful because all the teams look pretty good. Yeah.
I'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised if one of those teams. Yeah, I think you mentioned it last week. It's going to be very good for a team like the Buffalo Bills, where they're going to beat each other. They get to play each other twice. It'll be very unexpected for one of those 4 teams in the AFC West to win those 6 games, from each other. So they're going to beat each other, you'd expect, and that's going to hurt their seeding chances for that.
I think it's interesting as well because not kind of diving into these divisions too much, but it is worth noting that last year in the NFC West, you had the 49ers, you had the Cardinals, and then you had the Rams obviously go through. And they're all in the same division.
By no means am I saying I think there'll be 3 teams, but I just think it's unlikely that one of them is going to be top. You'd think it's someone like the is it AFC South, which is the Titans, Colts, maybe the Jags. That's a pretty weak division. So the Titans, if they can have, if they can kind of, with Derrick Henry in full flight, I think they would have a good chance of being near that top.
I think the other pretty interesting one is Matty Ryan being traded from the Falcons to the Colts, which is pretty wild. I kind of never thought I would not see him in a Falcons uniform. So on 7th year in a row with a different week 1 starting quarterback for the Colts. Baker Mayfield's obviously like potentially going.
Yeah, well, we haven't even talked about DeShaun Watson going to the Browns because I think last week that was still in the meeting phase. He was meeting with the Saints and the Browns and maybe someone else. So yeah, the Browns, surely Baker Mayfield's going to have a new team.
Oh, 100%. I think even when this backup. No, even when this, and they've actually signed a backup. I think they signed
Keenan Allen. Keenan. Case Keenum or something.
Yeah.
He's one of those, like, he's not that old, but he's kind of a backup.
Broncos drafted him.
Yeah.
He was their guy. Yeah, and like Watson will do well there, but I think what caught me most by surprise was that he'd written them off, and he was like, "I'm not going to the Browns." And then it was between the Saints and the Panthers, and then suddenly we're just seeing this notification come through, like a deal's about to be done with the Browns on like Friday, and then it went through, and it's some monster money.
I think it too much money, like
240 or something.
Just because, well, I know he's probably hardly going to play this season, but it's like I know he's obviously a very good player and he's still very young, so there's the potential. But yeah, I just think it's crazy money, and I think it could hurt the Browns organization for a long time, just committing that much money.
I mean, the Browns are a terribly run organization. Yeah. Like, whatever.
I don't think it's a surprise, but it's and I can understand like the Baker hate. So like, yeah, Baker's maybe not your guy, but I think that money should be reserved for like Mahomes, like the guy who's already won the Super Bowl, already won the MVP, been there and done that, and still young. I don't think DeShaun Watson is Patrick Mahomes, or he hasn't got the credentials of him. But that's what the money is.
I don't even know if the Baker hate's like fair at this point.
Yeah.
He's only been in the air for so many years. Last year he was injured. His shoulder was completely torn up, and he's playing through like a completely fucked shoulder.
Nah.
I'm not saying that Baker is a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson.
No.
But what I'm saying is like maybe he doesn't deserve it. And look, I hope Baker goes to like wherever he goes, whether it's the Falcons or whatever, and or the Panthers and does well. I really do. But yeah, like overcommitting for Watson with all those question marks over him, obviously not playing last year, like you said. I don't know if it's the right move, but we'll see.
Yeah. Any big calls for the rest of the NFL offseason? Christian McCaffrey getting traded?
I don't know if Chris, maybe. I mean, actually, the other thing I was incorrectly said Baker may end up at the Falcons. They signed Marcus Mariota for a 2-year deal, so good to see him back in a starting position. But I think
the Falcons. That's a like a sort of a stopgap. I think. Unless he does really well. I actually don't mind that move from a team like the Falcons. Like they needed, obviously Ryan's moved on and was getting on anyway. And they've gone, let's get Marcus Mariota, let's give him a chance. Like he's a guy that could actually do, he could come in here and do really well and sort of have a second wind if you'd like. And if he doesn't, then you've got the 2-year contract and probably next year they'll be really targeting a quarterback in the draft. So I quite like it.
I'm really excited to watch the Colts this coming season. I think
they're a dark horse, actually. I did sort of say that the AFC South's weaker, but yeah, I could see Ryan doing quite well there. They've clearly got a good defense. We know that. And yeah, so I think that could be a little sort of dark horse.
Yeah, I think other moves like teams to watch would probably be worth keeping an eye on what happens at the Cardinals. I'm not saying Kyler Murray is going to get traded because I don't think he would be. I think that would just be absolutely crazy, but more so that they'll hopefully bring another wide receiver to help DeAndre Hopkins, especially now that Kirk's gone. And they tied up Zach Ertz in a long-term deal as well. So still a lot to watch. Packers obviously could bring somebody in to help out there because they've kind of got no one now. I'd be keeping an eye probably on the Eagles. They may try to shift Jalen Reagor. I don't know if anyone's going to take him, but yeah. And the other one that I really like is, and my call is going to be that the Vikings are definitely a team to watch in the NFC. I think they're absolutely gonna light up the NFC next year.
Nice. I mean, it's definitely like excitement for the next season has skyrocketed on the back of the last few weeks, right? It's going to be so many
really hijacked
to watch the first few rounds.
They've sort of hijacked this is it's March Madness. You've got NBA sort of really ramping up into the playoffs. You've got the baseball is obviously spring training started and the season's about to start with trades of their own. And yeah. I feel like NFL is still kind of the king.
Still number one, always number one. But let's talk about the NBA because we're roughly 10 games out from the postseason starting. We touched on the Nets at the start, so Kyrie Irving is probably going to play home games. I think the Nets, that makes the Nets a team that if you meet them in the playoffs, really watch out, particularly if you're one of the higher seeds. I think, you look at those current higher seeds and
Bucks
Miami
are the only
and
one that can beat them of the top seeds, I think.
yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that. Maybe the one team is the Celtics to watch. The
Celtics
Celtics
has a
are really hot at the moment. They're surging up into fourth, 2.5 games out of first at the moment. So yeah, I mean, let's maybe talk about the Celtics because they're really on a roll. We talked about them a few weeks ago, how they'd been on a roll and started to dip, and I think one of us might have even picked them to fall out of the top six if there was a team that's going to do that. That's well and truly not happening anymore. But they've just sort of continued to climb and really look like one of the top teams in the East.
and the thing that's probably most promising for if you're a Celtics fan or and you want them to do well is it's in the defensive end, which when you think about, and it doesn't have to be basketball, but the defensive end is when it comes to tough series and playoff sort of basketball, having that defense as strong as it is for the Celtics, and that's what's really firing. That bodes really well for them as they head into the playoffs and likely to get into that top four.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. They had one of the hardest remaining schedules when we talked about them, and they've constantly won. Dave, like you said, like they're second in block shots across the league at the moment, which is insane. They're fifth in rebounds. They're just absolutely dominating everywhere. They're like 15th in scoring, but I mean, when you're doing that well defensively on the court, it doesn't really matter. So definitely a team I want to watch. Weirdly, though, as a Nets fan, going up against them in a seven game series does not worry me with a Nets team. I think obviously that's a lucky situation to be in with the Nets team, but I think like as long as they don't meet the Nets, there's definitely a chance they're going through to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think with the Nets, the advantage they've got is because it's not like Kyrie's not been allowed to play at all, and now he's coming in. Like that's what you think if Ben Simmons comes in, you're going to be like, well, he's going to take time because he's had so much time off. But at least with Kyrie, that pretty much the last probably 3 or 4 games of his have all been like absolutely like star performances. He's been the best player on court, and Durant's been on there as well. And so that yes, it's good to have the chemistry of them two playing more games before the play-in, but he's actually fit and firing and playing great basketball, and is obviously rested because he's only been the last few months. He's only been playing like half the games, so I think that bodes really well.
Both he and Durant are probably pretty well rested as well, given Durant's come off that injury layoff and seems to be getting better and better. But yeah, they're talking about like Simmons, if he's going to play, he might get like 1 or 2 regular season games if that. So that's going to be. I wonder what the role is for him in a playoff team, like a guy that's never been on the court with these guys, whether he's actually like a bench option in the playoffs.
Who gives a shit? He is definitely a bench option. I don't know if he starts, but like the thing with that team is they're looking amazing at the moment. So him being in is an added bonus.
Maybe he'll take some of Johnson's minutes.
Fuck, we can only hope.
But the Nets look good. I mean, they'll get guys like Curry back fully fit. That'll allow guys like Patty Mills, who's impressed off the bench, to go back to that role. The guys like Bruce Brown have really emerged this year. I think they've got a really deep roster as it is, and as you say, if Simmons does come back, that's a huge bonus. But I mean, I like them even just as they are, with Kyrie and KD playing every game, to still go pretty deep.
I think.
Sorry, go
on. Celtics being 9-1 out of their last 10 games, I think says something. I think that on the flip side, the other thing that says something, Bulls only winning 3 out of their last 10 games. They have not been able to get a win against a top-tier NBA team this season, and they are plummeting.
I mean, I think we talked about this a few weeks. Like they are flat-track bullies, basically.
Yeah,
and they will
it's
be my
in.
pick. I mean, they might be a lower seed now. They probably will be a lower seed now, but I would probably pick them for a first round exit.
Yeah, I think it's a very good call.
Without a
And
doubt, without a doubt, they're going to be outside the top four, so they're going to be the underdog. I think they'll fall to fifth or sixth. I haven't seen the leaderboard lately, but
Knocked out against Philly or Boston or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of like on the others, like, I mean, the East is doing that weird problem that it had like a while ago where it's like nobody seems to want to win in the East. They're all kind of jumping all over the place. But the West is kind of another situation where the like Suns are just absolutely red hot. They look absolutely unstoppable. They got a 30 win to 8 loss home record and 28 win to 6 loss away record.
And Chris Paul's
they
not
just
playing.
look absolutely dominant. Chris Paul's not playing. So they're looking scary as hell.
But look at, I mean, Memphis right now, having a great game against the Nets. They're going to have 75-ish points in the first half, and this is without Ja Morant playing. And this is the Nets side with KD and Kyrie. I mean, this is a very strong performance from this Memphis team.
Yeah, this is the sneaky thing about this Grizzlies team. When Ja Morant's not playing, I think they're winning like eight games to 2 losses when he doesn't play. So like the stats are weird when you think like their like main superstars out. So yeah, great team effort there. But then you're looking at in the West, Denver. I'm kind of keeping an eye on Denver just to see if we get their guys back from injury. But the Lakers seem to just be going all over the place. They're destined for this playing thing. They're having some amazing wins. They're having some terrible losses. I just can't get my head around that team at all.
Yeah, the other interesting team is the Warriors. With Steph Curry probably out for most of the rest of the regular season and then back around round one, they're probably going to finish in the 3rd seed.
Vulnerable, I think.
But they're vulnerable. And I don't know, Utah don't look incredible, but they're currently 2 games back of the Warriors. And if the Warriors slip down to that 4th seed, then suddenly that means that it's a Warriors-Suns Western Conference semifinal. And that makes, a team like Memphis's path to the finals a lot easier.
I actually think like if the Nuggets get back to full strength, get one of their 2 stars, but back. I think they're looking good for the 6th seed, and Warriors, you're saying, are likely to be 3rd. I think the Warriors are ripe for the taking there by the Nuggets. So I wouldn't say that's a walkover. So the Warriors, and that would be the Warriors full strength, and we're looking pretty good, and you'd sort of could see them kind of upsetting the Suns or like pushing them and probably getting through the finals. So it's just amazing how and that's what these long seasons of American sports do. They just go up and down, and obviously injuries play a huge part of that. Being able to stay fit for most of the season is kind of a key to a team success, certainly for the star players.
I do feel like this is what are you saying?
I was going to say, speaking of, did you see how like Zion's supposedly out for the season? Then he was doing windmill dunks yesterday and putting it up on social media.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive. But like, there's a little bit of difference between doing that and a changing and like by yourself in a gym versus actually playing. Like, I can understand the sort of reaction, but that doesn't mean it's also like. Do you think it's a giveaway that he's obviously wanting to get out? It's more like a sit out than a fitness thing.
You're 100% right, Dave. I was being a little sneaky. He's actually playing on like a soft court when he's doing it as well, so you can see like the
spring.
It's spring under the court he's on. But I think he's 100% done in New Orleans. Like that relationship's fucked. Like he's not signing an extension there. He's getting the fuck out of there.
That's going to be a story to watch. This NBA season it feels like one of the better ones in terms of just there are so many interesting permutations, so many interesting like teams that could go deep. I think the playoffs are just going to be absolutely fantastic, particularly in the East.
You had that explosive trade that's kind of created now this big rivalry. Well, we'll call it a rivalry, but like this kind of grudge now. You've
got this weird situation where the NBA favorites are probably going to be the 7th or 8th seed in the playoffs. I think it's like one of the most exciting finishes to an NBA season that I can remember for sure.
Absolutely.
What else is on? I think we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon. Do you want to talk baseball?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk anything
Yeah.
else? Anything else on the mind?
I was actually thinking about saying the other day, this is NFL, and this is because a lot of talks come around this Malik, is it Wallace or Willis? Malik Willis. So he's the quarterback. It's basically him or Kenny Pickett are going to be the other two quarterbacks that'll go on the first round.
Lost a quarter of an inch on the size of his
hand. I thought he gained
it.
it.
No, he gained it.
Sorry. Oh, Adam Schefter.
He was excited this one, and he gained a little. So the other two quarterbacks that everyone's predicting, they'll be the only two that'll go in the first round, and it's talked about as sort of, certainly not the top 10 or 15. But like for me, like there's so much that comes around by doing these pro days in the combine, and it's like there's so much emphasis in the NFL on that, and I feel like that's why there's so many players that don't necessarily kick on. And I'm sure there's great examples where there's like this freakish athletes that do this, can do the vertical jump and do this and that, and then they become great players. But I reckon there's been so many busts where guys have gone really high on a draft based on the combine more than necessarily college performance, and then they've turned out not to be very good. And because this guy can throw the ball 60 yards just by running around in a circle and like no pressure. It's like, well, what does he do when there's like JJ Watt running at him? Like, that's my
point. The combine's just an excuse to keep the NFL in the news, right? No team is looking at the combine, surely, and learning stuff about players. Like, they must know everything they need to know about these players well before the combine.
I honestly, Dave, I'm with you on this one. Like, I think it's fucking stupid because, like, you're right, Dave. Like, who goes to the NFL combine? And someone even tweeted about it today, a player. Who goes to the NFL combine and has a shit combine? Like,
or if you're pro day at your own facility.
Correct. If you're throwing 65 fucking yards, it's like with nobody rushing at you apart from like some trainers, like of course you're going to be able to throw it well, unless it's like one of us three going into like a facility and being like, oh, let's throw a ball. Like we would look like absolute shit. But these guys, like they've played at the college level, like it's going to be fine. There's no one running at them. I think the only thing it is good for is for maybe discovering like a deep draft pick. I think they get more out of Dave, you're going to have to remember this one, mate, as a Cowboys fan, but basically there's like a thing where like the worst coaches in the NFL get to coach like basically the college like senior bowl. And that's basically where the Cowboys got to see Dak Prescott, and that's why they discovered him in the draft. Those things are more valuable. Pro days, absolutely.
Yeah. The only other thing that I think they may use it for, but you don't need the pro day to do this, is to meet them. So I can understand putting a bit of value on like on a personality, on the type of individual, because just that there's the mental aspect, and if they can hold themselves well and all of that, and you can have great athletes that can't speak at all, for sure, but I feel like that's probably put in a lot of weight as well. But I'm sure they can meet them separately to the pro day or combine.
Do you know one of the things that was one of the worst things I've ever seen? It came out on one of the pro days. One of the defensive players went down, busted their ACL, non-contact injury, and all the like coaches and stuff just like stood there and walked away. And then one guy walked over and picked up the ball away from him as he's like writhing on the ground in pain. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Not from like an awful injury, like, it's not like bones are sticking out. They're just like, nobody gave a fuck. It was awful. So I think like players should just absolutely fucking walk away unless, like they're doing it to try get into the NFL as a long shot.
That's what I mean. I mean, these teams just must know everything they need to know well before the combine. Like, I don't know. It just feels like a PR thing.
I think the point I'm making, I feel like people definitely go up the board on the back of it. And I feel like those guys aren't necessarily going to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was just something I was thinking about earlier this week.
Oh, yeah. Bit of draft, combine, chats around here. I think we should leave it there. Got to get back to work, but good to chat, gents, and thanks for listening in to this episode of 3rd and 5. We'll be back hopefully next week with the regular menu of topics. Until then, thank you.